In case you missed it, on the other evening, we discussed the NESARA and GESARA benefits, being the National Economic Security and Reformation Act and the global version of that, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. We also talked about global settlements and prosperity programs that are currently in effect. And we gave you the information so that you can avail yourselves of the opportunities to accumulate wealth or to create projects and programs based on the funds that already exist. So we don't have to wait for any announcement of NESARA or revaluation of currencies. You can actually get busy right now with humanitarian projects or with availing yourself of opportunities to participate in these programs that are a part of global wealth settlements and humanitarian efforts. First, let's briefly go over the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. That is an act whereby farmers must be paid first, and then people, we the people, the American people and people all across the globe, for the nefarious activities of the banksters or the gangster banksters. Now, the farmers took the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve to court for the acts or the banking practices that they utilize on farmers, forcing them to do certain things in order to get loans so they could feed the global population. These were nefarious things, as well as enacting nefarious, unlawful banking practices, like forcing them to take out loans with stipulations attached. If they didn't do it, they stole their land, and making them take out exorbitant amounts of money with interest. If you don't know it, usury or forcing someone to pay interest here in America is unlawful. It is, in fact, treasonous. So the Supreme Court, not just the Supreme Court, world courts determined that the United States Federal Reserve Central Banking System had done the farmers unlawfully wrong, committed treason, and they did the same to we the people all across the globe. So the farmers must be paid off. Now, you all have heard the rumors that Clinton was forced to sign this act into law in 2000, and it was supposed to be heard from the Pentagon or announced from the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. But instead of that happening, some people were told not to come to work. The money or the gold that was supposed to support many of these programs, supposed to support global wealth, was taken out of the tower, and the towers were imploded. Then you had a major, huge event to happen at the Pentagon from which the announcement was supposed to come, and it never happened. So let's briefly talk about the NESARA benefits. Hang in there with me. Number one is to zero out all credit card debt, mortgages, automobile loans, student loans, all loans. Zero out, and that will happen. Secondly, NESARA will abolish the IRS. And we talked about how the IRS has already been downsized. If you look at my video on that was created on February 18, 2026, I'll go into detail proving each point. Abolish income tax, abolish the IRS. We talked about how right now, the different states are abolishing income taxes. Mississippi was the last to do it in 2025, and Georgia's passing legislation to eliminate some taxes, and they're doing like phases of eliminate some taxes, and then they're going to completely eliminate income taxes in Georgia. And we talked about which legislations or bills were passed to do that. Then we're going to increase benefits to to seniors for Social Security, and we discussed how that's already happening, how you have COLA or cost of living adjustments that's already happening. It's supposed to increase it only by 3% initially, and then it will go up incrementally. So that's actually happening right now. We're going to return us to constitutional law, return it to all courts. And we also talked about how the Department of Justice just experienced thousands, some say between 6,000 and 8,000 attorneys and judges walking out. Now, they say they have a problem with Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, and President Trump, who are reshaping the Department of Justice. But we talk about how the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, which eliminated the powers of the United States government and called them treasonous, and said that different departments in the federal government, fake government, has to be downsized. Okay, so again, retrain all attorneys and judges, whoever remain, in constitutional law. We also talked about how judges and attorneys are being arrested, okay, on February 18th. Also, we're going to monitor elections in the future. We're going to create United States Treasury currency, a new currency, and we talked about how that's already happening. That's why the Supreme Court of the United States mandated, or I should say they ruled, that state-sponsored banks can operate independently from the Federal Reserve central banking system and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. We further backed up my assertion and my assumption and my statement and proved it by showing that states, not only state-sponsored banks, but all central banks have started accumulating gold in record numbers. State-sponsored banks have already issued out and created gold backs, as well as your local coin dealers. And we just went into further depth on how that's happening and how the new Treasury notes coming out from the United States Treasury Department will be backed by resources. We also talked about how the IRS and the Department of the Federal Reserve, those two entities, the duties would go under the umbrella of the United States Treasury Department. Next, we're going to restore financial privacy. We know that's happening with the quantum financial system, the new sentient system that we have. We know that all banks have to be Basel III compliant, meaning they have to recognize gold as a tier 1 asset, meaning they can no longer steal your money. They have to be transparent, these banks do. They have to have tier 2 assets, which are foreign reserve notes. And we went into detail of how we know that, in fact, we're having restoring financial privacy. Retraining also judges and attorneys in constitutional law. We have talked about that. We're going to cease all aggressive U.S. government military actions worldwide. And we talked about in detail how we see that happening. We're establishing peace throughout the world, which is why that's the 14th component of NESARA, and that is why President Trump created the Board of Peace. We talked about how almost 30 nations have joined the Board of Peace and how he created the Board of Peace to replace the United Nations. And Trump has also removed us from 66 international organizations, and he said he's doing that to restore our sovereignty. This is proof that NESARA is in effect right now, and it's proof that the Republic is being restored. What is the 16th initiative? 15th is to initiate first phase worldwide prosperity and distribution, massive wealth programs. We talked about the sovereign wealth program, sovereign wealth fund Trump created, which is comprised of stocks, bonds, rare earth minerals, precious metals, land, tariffs, and other things, tariffs from other countries. So this sovereign wealth fund will help we the people create humanitarian projects, and it would be used for investments. Okay, so what is the next initiative? 16, release enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. We talk about the Global Settlement Program and humanitarian programs that actually came out in the 90s, how those are being implemented right now. We talked about CMXK or CMKX funds. We talked about a lot to support our claim that we will release enormous sums of money, enable the release of new technologies. You all know about sonic healing programs, med beds, free energy devices, pollution cleanup, healing devices. All these are being talked about publicly now. I even know people that have med beds in Orlando, and specifically, more importantly, here where I live in northern Florida. So you can look up those programs and those different devices and technologies. Reduce the work hours for people from 40 to 20 hours, and give everyone tens of thousands of dollars per month in their own account. Now, where will all that money come from? Between tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Actually, that this would be you having access to your trust. So when I talk about trust, what am I talking about? Let's look into the next thing. Okay, we talked about Trump's sovereign wealth fund, how that was created. What else? Let me see what those wealth programs are. Oh, we talked about Trump has what's called a secret wealth program. When this secret program releasing at least $150 trillion, it's just him accessing the mines that were on lockdown because the government wouldn't allow people to mine, to go on their own land, or those in those gold and silver mines that's been closed down since we came off the gold standard. But now that the Supreme Court has overturned the Chevron doctrine and eliminating the powers of the government, you don't have to go through a whole lot of red tape to open up or release those mines. That's the secret $150 trillion trust fund that Trump has. We also talked about how President Trump will release trillions of dollars for everyday people. Let's see, Trump to release trillions for Americans. This is a payout from a secret retirement fund. You can look at my video on that I did on the 18th of February, and you'll see, look in the description section, I'll show you the articles to support my claim. We also talked about how President Trump is releasing frozen funds that were frozen through the United States Department of Education. He unfroze them and released that money to the states. So now the states can use that money to educate their own children. And we talked about how states no longer want money from the Department of Education. The United States Department of Education will end. It will be downsized along with all the other 443 government agencies. Look at my video on it. 18th of February, I tell you about the 444 government agencies that have to be done away with. I also talk about motu proprio, the letter that Pope Francis wrote and sent to President Obama in 2014 saying it was over for the federal government, how they all must cease and desist, attorneys, judgment, court workers, policy enforcers known as police officers. He said all of the government agencies that they were foreign, they were treasonous, and they were terroristic, and they all must cease and desist. He talked about motu proprio, how the Grand Army of the Republic will be formed with General Ham at the forefront, leading the GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic, forcing these entities, the rogue government, to step down along with all court officials. This is probably why we're seeing and hearing of judges being arrested and the Department of Justice causing an uproar when 8,000 Department of Justice workers walked out. We also talked about prosperity programs, the Atlantic Council Freedom and Prosperity Center programs, the MIT Solve Economic Prosperity Challenge, the Prosperity Now programs, the Opportunity Zones. We talked about World Bank IBEP funds. We talked about United Nations Development Program, how all these funds are prosperity programs to help we the people and people all across the globe. Not to mention the ones that I briefly discussed on February 18, 2026, like the St. Germain Trust and other trusts, the King Solomon Trust, the Rodriguez Trust, the Secret Dragon Society Trust, the Global Settlements and Humanitarian Prosperity Funds, the Secret Book of Redemption and all the funds mentioned in that book. How you will have access to your Treasury Direct accounts. We talked about the birth certificate bonds and all these bonds, your Social Security money. All of these are bonds or programs that are prosperity programs that will give you wealth for you and your posterity. We didn't even go into silver and gold and how you can accumulate that right now. But we did talk about how you can get gold backs, gold RM notes, 24 karat gold pressed onto the note. You can get one for $10. You can get a half a gold back for a half a gold back for like $5 or $6. And this is how you can have real gold and start accumulating gold right now. That's affordable. You get constitutional silver, junk silver minted before 1965, sterling silver, silver jewelry, gold jewelry. Family, there are ways to accumulate wealth for yourself, but there are global settlements and prosperity funds that are being released right now. Join me on the Dr. Kia Pruitt program to discuss more. We go into depth about this all the time. Motu proprio and the letter that Pope Francis wrote saying that it's over for them. We talk about silver, gold, foreign currencies, all that, family. So please watch my video from February 18, 2026. We did some in-depth teaching. Okay, we went in-depth into the NESARA and GESARA. We went in-depth into motu proprio. I read the whole letter. We went in-depth into the prosperity programs and global settlements so that you can create the wealth that you desire and deserve. My family, the Soul Tribe, is about making sure we secure all the knowledge and wealth that we can for our future and our posterity, meaning our future generations. So on my channel, on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, it's about family, wealth, and legacy. We report on geopolitics and global settlements and economic reforms all across the globe so that you can have the knowledge to accumulate wealth for you and your posterity. We have special guests to come on. We have Dex Lattimore, global economist with an international business degree, and a worldwide traveler who's an economist and historian on our show. He is the channel's historian, the resident historian and economist. We have Jacob Bay, who talks about rituals and programs and different things that Hollywood, the elites, and government have done. When he comes on the show, he breaks down rituals and he shows us about numerology and helps us to understand and understand how these secret codes keep people blind, but he helps you to decode. We have Ron Anthony to come on and talk about how to seek the peace within and a God within, how to ascend in consciousness. We have Chief Mack to talk about how you can do estate planning and secure your wealth by putting your assets in a trust. You can reach out to him at unityemotion45@yahoo.com. We have Chief Rod Hayes. We have the Sheikh Asir Duke of Tears. We have Sheikh Muad'Dib Bey. We have a gentleman by Coach Bay who comes on and talks about how fitness and finance relate. If you have discipline in one area, you have discipline in another, how you can financially and spiritually and emotionally discipline yourself to accumulate wealth and to be physically fit. We have a chef who comes on our podcast. What is his name? I can't think of Chef. I'm so sorry. Chef Bay, to come on and talk about how you can eat well. He's the chef of the Soul Tribe, and just so many other people. We've had Gold Star Mother Susan Price, Dave XRP Lion One to teach us how to create humanitarian projects. We've had so many different people. We've had Rod, not Chief Rod Hayes, but another Rod, to come on and talk to us about how to get into foreign currencies. And then you have Dr. Kia Pruitt, my private group. Go onto my YouTube channel, hit the join button, and you'll learn about how to accumulate wealth, how to invest in silver, gold, foreign currencies, land, all your health, your wealth, how to create a mission and vision statement for yourself and your family, your posterity. You learn all these things from the Dr. Kia Pruitt program. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. All of you are important to me. I love you. Join me on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. We do shows every day in the morning around 11 or 12 o'clock and sometimes in the evening too. I trust that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Peace, family. I love you so much. Bye.